All right, let's talk about what can only be called a scientific renaissance. We're talking about psilocybin research. For decades, this fungus was basically on the regulatory sidelines, but now it's reemerging as a really powerful new tool for some of our toughest mental health challenges. You don't even have to take my word for it. This chart from PubMed tells the whole story. After some initial buzz back in the 60s, research just flatlined. For decades, we were seeing maybe 10 publications a year. But then, look at what starts happening around 2019. This isn't just a little bump in interest, it's a full-blown explosion. So, here's how we're going to break it down today. We'll start with the clinical promise. Then we'll get into the major scientific hurdles. After that, we'll look at the seriously cool solutions being developed. And finally, what the future might hold for psilocybin as a legit medicine. So what is driving this incredible comeback? Well, it all boils down to the profound therapeutic potentials psilocybin is starting to show in clinical settings. What researchers are finding is that psilocybin might help kind of untangle the rigid, looping thought patterns that are hallmarks of some of our most stubborn conditions. We're talking treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, and addiction. And the results, they're so compelling that the FDA has actually granted it breakthrough therapy status for depression, which basically puts it on the fast track. This has been such a long journey. It started with really promising research in the 60s, but then it went into this long, cold winter of regulatory suppression. The 2000s saw a gradual thaw, and what we're seeing now, it's like a full-blown scientific spring. And you kind of have to understand that history to really get where we are today. And as Kirstbaum and their colleagues put it, we really are in a modern scientific renaissance. Now, at the heart of this revival is one particular species, one that's known for being relatively easy to cultivate and pretty widely available, Psilocybe cubensis. But, and this is a big but, it's not that simple. While the promise is absolutely immense, there's a fundamental puzzle that scientists have to solve first, and that puzzle is nature's own inconsistency. I mean, just look at the incredible diversity across these different cultivated strains. You've got the classic mushroom shape of Penis NV7 right next to this blob-like, almost brain coral structure of Enigma. This is what you get after decades of selective breeding by enthusiasts and just natural adaptation. So this incredible physical variation, what scientists call different phenotypes, it just begs a critical question. If the mushrooms look this different, what does that mean for their chemistry, for the stuff that actually matters? And the answer is, they're wildly inconsistent. This table here shows the psilocybin concentration. Just look at this range. We're going from less than 0.5 milligram per gram in one variety all the way up to almost 20 milligrams in another. That's a 40-fold difference. Now think about that from a doctor's perspective. That's the difference between a dose that does nothing and one that could be dangerously potent. So here's the bottom line. For Psilocybe cubensis to make the leap from a natural product to a regulated, trusted pharmaceutical, this biochemical variability is the single biggest hurdle we have to clear. You just can't have a medicine where the potency is a total lottery. Which brings us to the solutions. How are researchers trying to, well, tame this fungus and create a product that's standardized and predictable? The answer lies in a mix of cultivation and genetics. Right now, there are two main approaches. The traditional way is to grow the fruiting body, the actual mushroom. That gets you high potency, but it's a ton of work and super variable. The other way is to cultivate just the mycelium. That's the root-like network underground, in a controlled liquid culture. This way is way more consistent, it's scalable, it's faster, but the potency is usually lower. And you can see the two worlds right here. On the left, that's your traditional cultivation. On the right, that's a sterile, precisely controlled bioreactor. This lab-based method, called submerged fermentation, is where the pharmaceutical industry really sees the future, because it gives you the control you need for a reliable medicine. And the key to all this control? It's in the genetics. Scientists have actually pinpointed the exact genetic recipe that the mushroom uses to make psilocybin. It's a little cluster of 4 key genes that work together like a tiny molecular factory. This pathway here shows that factory in action. It all starts with a simple building block, the amino acid L-tryptophan. From there, those side genes direct this step-by-step assembly line to create psilocybin. And if we can understand this process, well, we can eventually engineer mushrooms to be more potent, more consistent, exactly what we need.
So, where does all of this leave us? Well, we are standing right on the edge of a new frontier in psychiatric treatment. But the path forward, it's still being mapped out. And there are some really critical questions left to answer.
A really central debate in the field right now is synthetic versus natural. Pure lab-made psilocybin is the easiest path to get approved because it's just one single predictable molecule. But a lot of researchers think that natural extracts contain a whole cocktail of other compounds that work together, a synergistic entourage effect, they call it, that could lead to a better therapeutic result. So the road ahead is pretty clear. Researchers need to perfect cultivation in those bioreactors. They need to pinpoint the exact molecules behind that entourage effect, use genetics to create designer strains, and, this is the big one, run more head-to-head clinical trials comparing pure synthetics with whole extracts. And this leaves us with this final, really fascinating question. As we push for the kind of pharmaceutical precision that medicine rightly demands, how do we make sure we don't lose the potential holistic benefits of the whole fungus along the way? Finding that balance, that is the challenge that's going to define the next chapter for this ancient medicine in our very modern world.